Hi everyone, this is another clip taken from Jose's panel featuring some short interactions with SE Montreal and Cynical Skeptic. Montreal is a quantum eraser and Hoaxley puppet. Anytime he's on a panel he just runs through the gamut of all their favourite arguments from ignorance. Coriolis, Sea Sparrow, Railgun, gas pressure without a container, open and closed systems, etc. Cynical isn't a flat earther, but he falls into the same trap as most flat earthers, sharing some of their false ideas, especially where it concerns NASA and anything to do with space, where he mistakes drowning in exceptional levels of incredulity based on his own ignorance for logical skepticism. There's nothing special about the interaction as such. I just offer it up as a clear demonstration of the issue that lies at the core of the beliefs held by those who claim they have been lied to about the shape of the Earth and the heliocentric model. As the title suggests, they are arguing from ignorance and incredulity, and talking to them is like talking to a brick wall due to the failure of comprehension taking place. It starts with Montreal in an attempt to discuss moon phases, then gets broken up in the middle with Cynical bringing up Ute's favourite meme about sensing a difference in speed during the Earth's rotation. Then it goes back to Montreal and the moon. So just to make it easier to follow, I've edited the parts with Montreal together into one section and then followed that with the section with Cynical. Thanks again to Jose for hosting the open panels, and I'll get this video going. Cheers.
I want to do a big shout out to Only Chipo Can't See. Thank you for the super chat. He said to the flat earthers on the panel, clearly explain the phases of the moon. How do they occur? So we want a clear explanation on the phases of the moon. Montreal, you want to tackle this one if you got an answer? Before we move on to continue with the water spheres.
Sure. The phases of the moon, that's a tricky one. But what's funny is when we have an eclipse and the moon is visible at the same time as the Earth, as the sun. Explain that one.
Yeah, but
you're explaining the phases of the moon. You forgot to do that bit.
Yeah, it's supposed to be phases and you moved on to eclipses. Try explaining eclipses.
Yeah, let me. I got another personal opinion before we jump in. Cynical Skeptic might have an explanation because you like looking up to the skies a lot. Cynical, welcome, brother.
Explanation for what specifically?
The phases of the moon on a flat Earth, if the Earth was flat, or do you believe it just happens the way we are taught on a heliocentric model?
The phases of the moon,
they go in a monthly cycle, not a daily cycle.
Yeah.
I think the phases of the moon happen the way we're taught they happen. I've looked a lot at the moon as an amateur astronomer, and to me it is a solid thing. You can see craters on it. You can see shadows in the craters. So that on that side, I'm with you guys.
And that's what I like you, Cynical, because you keep it real. Yeah, pretty much. We don't have another alternative. Pretty much, that's my take on it.
Well, the phases can't be explained on a flat Earth, though.
Which is what was just.
How about the selenelion? How about that? Explain that one. Sure, the moon is real. It looks solid. How could that happen?
Explain it on a flat Earth, Montreal.
No, I'm telling you guys, I agree.
Because you can't,
I agree that the moon is real.
We know how it is.
Explain the selenelion.
It's predicted to happen based on the globe Earth and the heliocentric model, and that's why people can go out and prepare for a selenelion occurring and take pictures of it so you can then talk about it. So it's not an unknown thing for the globe. You can't.
How does it happen?
Why are you bringing up globe Earth science if you're a flat earther? Don't you have any flat Earth science you could talk about?
Exactly.
Answer my question. Answer my question.
Don't demand.
I can't believe you don't realize it's been answered.
Montreal, you were asked to explain phases, you jumped to eclipses. You've let somebody else speak for you on the topic of eclipses and then try to bring in selenelion. You aren't answering a single thing. Try answering a question.
Mr. Grimm, want to say something?
I'll answer your question.
It's like, you can't see me.
Just tripping.
He's deflecting everything. It's funny. I'm not mad at him.
Just kind of like you guys were doing with the water. It's so funny, yeah.
You mean
Wait, now we're going to give a chance to SE Montreal to make a point, and then we're going to talk. Well, really quick. I'm almost
revolutionary.
And then SE Montreal, if anybody want to round it up on this topic, we're going to jump to the next, which is flat Earth side. How does GPS work on a flat Earth? Thank you, GPS, for the super chat. Montreal, what were you going to say about the moon? Because this woo thing about PJ is not going to be touched, man.
And Jose, I would like to show you.
So this is a great conversation, guys. Respect to everybody. My question is this: pressure without a container, gas pressure without a container,
That's
Earth
not the
open
moon.
and closed
You've just
system.
changed the subject.
Yeah, we're not
Your
going to jump to that
biggest
one yet.
double speeding of all.
Yeah, but let's not go to that subject yet.
So Montreal, how do eclipses work on a flat Earth again?
We're changing the subject, are we? Okay.
Well, I know what you guys do all the time.
How does the
You
open
did
and
it
closed
3
system
times
work
when you
on
were
satellites?
when it was raised the first time round, and you never did give an answer. So that's why I'm coming back to it.
It works the way you guys say it until it comes for the selenelium. Then we have problems.
Okay,
That's
that
all I have to say
doesn't
about
work
that.
on a flat Earth. Doesn't work. That's not a good explanation.
Well, that's the only one I have, my friend.
So, well,
I'm not an expert on solar eclipses.
For eclipses to work in our system, or it's one body blocking the path of light to another. That's pretty much the definition. So it can't work the same way for you in a flat Earth. You can't just use that and just cop out, oh, it just works the same way. It's a completely different setup if the Earth is flat. That's why you're being asked the question, because it doesn't make sense.
I told you I answered your question.
You didn't answer the question.
Now answer my question.
You dodged
How does your
the
fantasy
question
world
and
work?
tried to go back to the selenelion. But the irony about that, Montreal, is that you can't even explain a standard eclipse and still think that the selenelion is something that isn't understood. So you don't understand a normal eclipse, but you think you know something more about the selenelion to be able to say that it can't work in the heliocentric model. That's just
I'll give you the eclipse. I'll give you, if you want, I'll give you the eclipse, my friend. No problem. You can have your eclipse.
I don't need your permission to have an eclipse. I'm asking you to explain how it would work on a flat Earth.
I told you, I'm not an expert on eclipses. I can't explain you that.
So why are you asking?
Can you explain anything else about the flat Earth model? Is there anything else you could explain about why the flat Earth model is better?
I want you guys to explain something to me. You guys are the geniuses, especially you, my friend. Especially you. I want you to explain something to me. How does an open and closed system work, genius?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so let me actually pause it and just explain through it. It'll be quicker. You see this graphic here. The Earth is rotating around the sun at about 67 miles an hour in an elliptical orbit, right? Now, if you're this dot in the equator, and you're obviously your feet are on the Earth and you're pointing that way towards the sun, you are rotating counter that rotation at about 1,000 miles an hour during the day as you're facing the sun, and as you go around the Earth in the night, you're going with that rotation at about another 1,000 miles an hour. So a 2,000 miles an hour differential that we should be feeling, I call that the teapot effect. So all the bullshit that they said that they can, the gyros can only detect a rotation movement. This is a movement that should be detectable by any very sophisticated or sensitive equipment, and it's not detected.
Cynical, you talk about detection, right?
Yes.
You would be detecting acceleration.
And
not
deceleration.
Miles per hour, not speed. You would be detecting acceleration, changes in acceleration.
And you should be able to.
So have you calculated the amount of acceleration involved in this?
It's a differential of 2,000 miles an hour, and it will be changing.
Exactly. You just went back to what I just said is wrong. You're talking about miles per hour. What you're supposed to be looking at is acceleration. Have you calculated the changes in acceleration?
It will be. It's hard because it's on a curve, but it will be as soon as you hit in like the 9 o'clock right here, you'll be already starting to change, going on the other direction. When you hit here the 9 o'clock, the actual 9 o'clock, you will be going with the rotation with no counter or pro rotation.
Not if you're an actual physicist and you understand rotational physics. which I don't, but physicists do. So it's not really that hard if you're a physicist.
So in order for you to make a valid point, Cynical, what you have to do is figure out how much acceleration there is and how much it changes to determine whether it's something that can be detected in the first place and how much sensitivity would be involved.
Yeah, do the math for God's sake.
And you got to give him credit though for at least thinking about it in these parts like this.
What is the change in angular rotation speed of the Earth?
They change it 2,000 miles an hour.
No, it does not. The Earth rotates at a constant velocity. Tell me how the
bottom of this graphic means that's like gravity or something is pulling it, making it go differently on the bottom than on the top. That's not how it works.
Well, I think he's saying against the 67,000 miles per hour, you're going with it and faster, and then slower than it and against it.
But the rotation of the speed of the Earth does not change.
Right, except your direction does.
It doesn't matter about what direction.
It does matter. If I'm going 50 miles an hour left, and then I turn and go 50 miles an hour right, it fucking does matter. There's a vector change.
Yes.
Damn right it does.
Look down on it and then imagine yourself rotating around at all different degrees. Right?
Imagine that.
If you want to look, just a minute.
They're not even trying to look at this information as if it is viable, as if there might be an explanation.
If you want to look at it from a reference frame away from the Earth, yes, you would see what you're seeing on this picture. That's not something you can measure. Our rotation is the same. It stays the same. It's constant.
As if we were not moving at all.
All right, Big Blue. Just to the benefit of the doubt, are you watching? Are you looking at my graphic?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good. So imagine you're on a big box truck, and inside that big box truck, you have a teapot ride. Even if it's moving very, very slow, as you're moving on a constant linear, let's say linear, because the rotation around the sun is so big that you can say it is linear, right? So let's say you're moving with a truck at constant velocity. You think a teapot inside is not going to feel going back and forth as you're going around?
Not at the speed the Earth moves. We did this calculation, Cynical. We did this calculation before when we were looking at the Coriolis effect, if you remember, and it was a very, very small amount.
Yes,
look, we know it's 15 degrees an hour.
Add five more vectors to that.
But
See how that works out.
But I'm not saying we should be able to detect that. I'm not saying we should be able to detect that. I say the equipment should be able to detect it.
There's no experiment. There's no experiment you could ever do that would inform you how to tell the difference between your frame of reference and another one.
If you have changes in
you can't even calculate more than three bodies.
The laws of physics are the same in every reference frame, right? So there's no experiment. There's no experiment you could do in an elevator in space that's moving, accelerating at it's a constant rate of acceleration. There's no experiment you could ever do that would tell the difference between that and you sitting on the Earth.
This isn't constant.
Okay, Brenda, take that same elevator. Give me a chance, Tony. Take that same elevator, spin it around at 1,000 miles an hour, make it tilt it, and make it move at 5, 6, 7 vectors. Tell me you're not going to feel that. Go ahead.
Is the elevator the same size as the Earth?
Exactly. Yes, make it any size you want.
Could you tell me what 5, 6, or moving at 5, 6, or 7 vectors means?
Right. Does the movement of this the spinning of the Earth actually that centripetal force, does that actually overcome the being able to measure the difference in the speed though? I mean, wouldn't that wave that out like a cancellation?
You've got a point.
It'd be hard to measure.
This is centrifugal force.
No. It's angular momentum, just like on a merry-go-round. Exactly. Just the Earth itself spinning, you should be able to feel.
I understand that. I'm looking at wave cancellation problems. Now I'm looking at like how one force would cancel out another force seemingly by matching it, and then you wouldn't even see it or measure anything there, like a void.
Yeah. So you can measure the difference between weight of objects at the equator versus the poles, because when it's spinning at the poles, it's the circle that it's spinning in is smaller, so the centrifugal force is smaller.
So which I've done, by the way.
Which has been done.
I've shared that. No, I did it. I've done it myself. That varies.
Your conclusions are wrong.
Hang on.
Your conclusions are faulty, Cody. Unscientific.
I've been waiting a while. So I'd just at least like to.
They're close enough to write.
I'd love to say the two things I was going to say. I did wait because Montreal said, "Give me a chance." So the two things are that I've done those weight tests, which everyone has seen, and I've shared it from Egypt, Portugal, and the UK, and we've seen that variation. I will also point out the ring laser gyro shows a 15 degree per hour drift.
Right.
Thank you.
How does that validate your conclusion, Cody, regarding the different weights? How does that validate? How can you jump to a conclusion that the Earth must be moving, even if we accept that there is a valid discrepancy in weight measurements?
Mathematics.
No, exactly. A really good explanation for the differential in weights. We're told the Earth is a sphere, is spinning, is chubbier on the equator, so you're further from the center of mass at the equator than you are on the pole. So that differential in weight could be due to that, not to spin.
Cynical Skeptic, a better explanation is the contour of the barrier itself. It's at the highest point at the equator, going to lower at the northern and southern peripherals. This is what the Aurora Australis and Aurora Borealis are about. Yes. But my point is that Toady came to this conclusion and validated his preconceived notions on the basis of what? There's no grounds for coming to that conclusion that the Earth moves because you measure these discrepancies.
Funny you say ground.
So what other conclusions we come to then, Pete, in those differences that I measured?
The word round is in ground.
Yeah, can we do kind of a summary? Because I got two more topics I want to touch before we get out of here for today.
All right, Jose. Go ahead.
Can I just chip in with something I was trying to say, which is that I did a rough scaling of the type of example you're talking about, Cynical, to get the speeds scale we can relate to. It was a teacup ride scenario.
Yep.
And the track representing the orbit would need to be about 32 miles long. And obviously you're taking 12 months to travel that track.
No, it's not 12 months. I'm talking about day and night. You can make
not finished, Cynical. Not finished. The orbit is 12 months, right? So that's the size of your orbit, so to speak, on your teacup ride, the outer circumference of the ride. And then to represent the Earth, the actual teacup rotating, that worked out to be about, I can't remember the exact decimals, but it was about 7. Shut up, you dick. It's about 7.6 centimeters per minute.
I'm trying to save you the calculations. You're getting it wrong.
Up to about 8 centimeters per minute or something like that. I can't remember. I need to look up because I did it months ago, but it was really very slow.
I'm not taking no. You got me.
It would literally take you a year to observe it.
It's not a year.
Can we prove that's how slow it is?
Scales it down, man.
I don't want to call anybody anything here. You guys just didn't understand. The rotation around the sun is not what I'm taking into account. I said that is, to my knowledge, let's say it's linear. Linear. That's not a rotation. I'm taking it as linear. What I'm taking as a rotation of the teacup.
Without taking that into account, you don't get your plus and minus figures.
No, the one I'm taking into account is the rotation of the Earth itself. And if you're standing in the equator,
rotation is constant, and there's no plus and minus unless it's also moving along that separate path.
It is moving in that path. Let's say it's moving linear. You're moving with the rotation of the Earth during the day, during the night, and you're moving against it. Look at the graphic.
You're moving forward and against because you're moving along the orbital path. And that is what I'm saying to you. Scaling it down on a teacup ride, moving that way, your orbital path, the part you're calling linear, is about a 32-mile circumference track.
The teapot ride is the Earth. The linear path around the sun is
ride speed
you're in the truck.
On a daily basis varies between 7.5 centimeters per minute to 8 centimeters per minute.
No, it varies 2,000 miles an hour.
Oh, Jesus, you just don't get it, do you? I'm talking about a scaled down example. A scaled down example. What part of scale is the problem?
It's nonsense. Anything to do with a spinning ball Earth is merely an exercise in thought. That's all, because it's not true.
And I'm a baller. I mean, I'm just not
satisfied.
It's really offended by what you're saying, Aldo. That's obvious.
They like to use the teacup ride example, so I did rough figures on it for them one time, and now I'm trying to get. He brought it up. Oh, talk about a teacup ride. Now I try to give him a scaled example of a teacup ride, and he doesn't want to hear it.
No.
You're offending him.
You're taking the people right around the sun. I don't care about the sun. I'm talking about during the day and night, and you're going straight in a line.
Oh my God!
What's the sun in your diagram then?
I've come to the conclusion that Pete Shea's middle name is ironic. Pete,
I think this is what the problem is, okay? Instead of doing, he just wants you to scale it down just to an hour.
Yes.
An hour of movement. All right. So he said yes. Look, he said yes.
At the most, 12 hours. When you're facing the sun.
He doesn't want you to use the whole year. He just wants you to like half a day.
I wasn't talking about a full year. I was explaining the size of the orbital path and then saying what the figures were for a day.
I'm throwing away the orbital path. I don't care if it is orbital.
Jesus. Cynical, you need to get this. Cynical. You cannot throw away the orbital path or you don't get a plus and minus figure on your rotation.
It's to your benefit.
The Earth's orbital path around the sun, okay, you clown.
Right.
You take it as a linear velocity on a nightly basis.
Shut up, Pete.
Okay, I'm throwing it away on your benefit. I'm saying it's not orbital, it's straight.
You're not understanding the point. That is why linear or it doesn't matter whether it's linear or whether it's elliptical, the forward movement in that direction is what gives you the plus and minus figures on your rotation values.
But if you're looking at a very short, straight path of the sun, of the moon, the Earth around the sun.
Yeah, but Cynical, if it's only moving once, then why do you have to calculate for two?
Because you're moving in one. Look at the graphic. You're moving in one direction. Let's say that big curved arrow I have going straight.
You need to calculate for two
motions. Be patient, guys. Be patient. Let's try to round this up. Let's try to round this one up.
There is no common sense.
They want to calculate the motion of one, taking away or adding to the motion of the other.
Graham, you get what I'm saying?
Guys, yes, I do. When the Earth is spinning, let's say, then when you're moving in the one direction, if you're on one side of the Earth, you're going with the direction, and then when the Earth spins and you become on the other side, now you're going against the direction.
Exactly.
What's the difference?
Which requires both directions.
What's the inertial difference we should feel if we were able to measure that?
What reference frame are you in, Grim?
It's not at the pole.
When you're
I'm in the third point. Yeah, I'm outside of the reference to see this.
I think we're all missing the bigger picture.
That's why I'm asking, because I can see that there is mathematically a difference, yet I don't know how I could go about detecting that. That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm saying I see you have a valid issue.
Yeah, and that's legit. It's a legit
already
graphic upright. Nobody would be confused.
But Green gets it that between 12 hours there is a 2,000 miles an hour differential in speed.
Well, I don't know about if it's 2,000 mile differential. I don't actually know if that's true.
You know what, guys? Let me jump in 1 second. I'm sorry to.
It's constant, guys. We know this.
Yeah, I hate to redirect this, but this is a good topic that I want to dedicate a whole show on it. On does Earth rotate or not? Let's present evidence on rotation. And I would like Cynical Skeptic also to bring this. Do you got a last point on this? Because I want to move to something else apart to this specific topic. You got something about this one or something different, Tony? You presented your screen.
Jose.
Go ahead.
Can I just say one thing? This is just for your benefit, Jose.
8 reasons that the Earth is
hold on. Let's get Alkay last word in this one. Go ahead.
This was just so based on the way I'd worked it out on the teacup ride. Another way to look at it was it would take you 9 months to travel over the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge at an average speed of 7.5 centimeters per minute.
Okay, you're not getting it. It doesn't take 9 months. It takes 9 hours to feel the difference.